We elevate our thoughts. We ask for the blessing and protection of the spiritual benefactors. We thank them for the opportunity of being reunited, of being able to have a meeting. We thank them for their assistance, their guidance. We ask them for inspiration so we can all together learn, understand, more important, be able to put in practice on our daily lives all the teachings we're about to receive. We ask for the protection of those who are still going to join us later, and for those who won't be able to join us this evening. With our hearts full of gratitude, we thank our Master Jesus for another opportunity of being reunited in His name. And we thank the spirits for the protection and guidance, for everything that we have been receiving through these difficult times, that we may all find faith, resignation, and patience to withstand the difficult times and arrive at the other side of this disease, feeling stronger, more inspired, spiritually better. So we ask permission to start our meeting. So be it. So I'm going to share my screen here so you can all see the Spirits book. You should be seeing it now. We are on question 859. We are talking about fatalism. Again, we discussed this last week. And the most important concept here, and actually it's going to appear later in a question, is that fatalism applies basically to our physical life, not to our moral choices. And fatalism applies to the big events of our physical lives. It doesn't apply to you go out to the street to buy an ice cream and you choose one or the other, or the guy closes the shop before you arrive. That's not fatalism, that's chance or whatever you want to call. Fatalism applies to the big events of our lives. And it applies only on the mainly on the physical aspect of our lives, as on the moral side, we have always free will and the ability to exercise it. Okay?
Right.
Yes. So 859, Zoraida, can you read it for us?
Yes. Yes. If death is inevitable at its appointed time, does this also apply to all the accidents that may happen to us over the course of our lives? They are often small enough that we can warn you against them, and sometimes help you avoid them by directing your thoughts, because we do not like physical suffering. All this is of little importance to the life you have chosen. Fatalism truly is the hour at which you are born into and exit the physical life. Are there incidents that must occur in a life and that spirits cannot help you avert? Yes, but you saw those incidents when you chose your life as a spirit. Nevertheless, it would be wrong to assume that everything that happens to you was written in the stars, as people say. An event is often the consequences of something you have done by an act of your own volition. Had you not done that thing, the event would not have taken place. If you burn your finger, it is a trivial inconvenience resulting from your own carelessness and the consequences of matter, not destiny. Only great sorrows, serious events that are capable of influencing your moral state are predestined by God, because they will be useful to your purification and education.
Okay. So, again, when we talk about death, and we discussed this last week, death is something that we all, the death of the physical body, we all have to go through, and it will happen. It's inevitable. The appointed time, it's not a strict time, meaning February 27th of 2025 at 11 p.m. That's not how it works. We have an estimate average life here on earth that we can increase or reduce according to our behaviors and our actions. But we will all go back to the spiritual world. That's fatalism. We all know that. Now, other things that happen, small incidents, as they say here, if you burn your finger, you know, it's not fatalism. It's something that you were not careful, and you know, it's a trivial inconvenience, right? So when you stay out in the cold and you caught a cold, that's not fatalism. That's your imprudence. So now, if you go through a disease that causes you a lot of challenges, a cancer or diabetes, some other diseases, that may be part of your journey. That may be was programmed for your physical life that you would have to go through. But even those diseases or those big events on our lives can be, the intensity can be reduced by our own good actions. And Elmo mentioned this last week. So maybe you are supposed to come in this life with lung problems because you were a heavy smoker in the previous incarnation, but you behave, you take so good care of your physical body that you have small or mild events of asthma and nothing really bothers you that much, but it's something that you have to go through. On the other hand, you come to this life and you start smoking again, you are going to probably have a serious consequence of it, and that's a consequence of our own actions, much more than fatalism or something that is written. Well, there's nothing written in the stars. It's something just part of our journey on our evolution, things that we have to go through on our moral and intellectual evolution and physical evolution. Okay?
Yeah.
Any comments, questions? Yeah, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to make comments. I know in the beginning everybody's kind of shy, but don't be.
Yeah.
Okay. No comments, no questions. Let's
continue. I have a question, John.
Okay.
John. So the situation that everybody is going through, the coronavirus, so this is a fatalism, or the people that are going through had to go through for this disease?
It's very difficult to talk about events when we are going through it, because normally when we are emotionally involved with something that is going on, it's very difficult to analyze from a bird's eye view. It may, you may speculate that is a collective karma. You may speculate that it's man-made, causing us to revalue ourselves because we were not following the right path. But all of this, it's premature, and we shouldn't be trying to guess or trying to find explanations while we are going through. Let's see the end of it, and let's analyze, looking back and understanding why this happened. Like we can talk about the Black Plague in Middle Ages in Europe that caused a lot of changes, killed 2/3 of the population, and caused the end of feudalism. That in the end caused Renaissance. So it was an important event to the renewal of planet Earth. But again, you are going to tell this to someone that lost their whole family to the plague, they're not going to understand it. So we should try to avoid, while we're going through it, to make some judgments or saying, this country or that country is going through a more intense a pandemic because it's their karma. I think this is too dangerous.
Now, this is among us. It's among us, of course.
We are in a public discussion, and this is going to go to YouTube, and it's going to stay there for those that want to listen. So we don't want to make assumptions that we don't really know exactly what's going on.
Right.
Yes, okay. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, John.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
860. Can individuals, by their will and effort, prevent events from taking place and vice versa? They can if this deviation is compatible with life they have chosen. They may prevent wrongdoing to do good, which should be the sole purpose of life, especially if that wrong might contribute to an even greater evil.
Read the next one.
Yes. Did those individuals who commit a murder know in choosing their life that they would become murderers? No. They knew that they incurred the risk of killing one of their fellow creatures by choosing a life of struggle. However, they did not know whether they would or would not, because a murderer almost always deliberates before committing the crime. And if people can deliberate, they are free to carry out the action or not. If spirits knew that they would commit a murder beforehand, it would imply that they were predestined to commit that crime. No one is ever predestined to commit a crime. Every crime, like every other action, is the result of choice and free will. You are confusing two things that are quite distinct: the events of material life and those of moral life. If any sort of fatalism exists, it is only in the events of your material life, of which the cause is beyond your control and independent of your will. As to the acts of the moral life, they always emanate from human beings themselves, who always have the freedom of choice. In those acts, there is never any destiny.
Okay, so this question is very important in in the subject of fatalism, because this question really explains to us the difference between what happens to our physical body in our physical life and the actions that we, according to our free will, act during our life. So when it talks about killing someone, you are never going to come to an incarnation with the purpose of killing anyone, of committing any mistakes. We are going to incur in these actions according to our free will. So if you were a murderer in a previous incarnation and you went back to the spiritual world and you repent and you learn and you prepare yourself for a new incarnation, you have to come here and test yourself. You have to go through the experiences, through the temptations, to understand really if you overcame that tendency that you had. Because like when we go to school and we study and we have tests, but we only put in practice what we have learned in school once we are living our professional lives. The same thing is with our life in the spiritual world. We can learn a lot in the spiritual world. We can have a lot of experiences. We can progress in the spiritual world. And like Julio said last week, or I think on Sunday, André Luiz is the proof that we can learn and evolve a lot in the spiritual world. But to put in practice everything that we have achieved, we need to come back to a new incarnation to test ourselves. So you can learn all patience possible in the spiritual world, to be patient, but you have to come here and test your patience in our daily life to see if you really become patient, or like I always say, you don't lose your patience Either you have it or you don't, right? So again, things that happen in our physical life, diseases, major events, they may have been part of our journey into this existence. But things that happen according to our moral choices are always a moral choice and never at any destiny, like they say very clear in the end. Going back a little bit to the first part, when individuals by their will and effort can prevent events from taking place, yes, of course we can. We have free will. So we, as we evolve in our physical life, we can start making better choices for ourselves and start avoiding wrongdoing, even things that we didn't bother when we were younger. As we evolve and learn in the physical life, we can try to avoid making mistakes that, especially if those mistakes are going to cause a greater evil, as they say here. Okay? Questions, comments? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, João, Renato here.
Okay, go ahead, Renato.
I was just thinking what we studied last week, especially with the heaven and hell. And you are mentioning now that, once you learn, you have to test it on a new reincarnation. And we study, last week that once you learn, you acquire is, in you already. You don't need to go through all those things because you already acquired. You know it's your knowledge, so you don't need to redo things once you learn. So when you're saying that you can evolve in the spiritual realm, but you still have to come here and test it. So are you saying that, we don't really, learn on the spiritual realm until we reincarnate and test it, or we do learn in the spiritual realm and sometimes there's no need to test here in the physical realm?
No, we do learn in the spiritual world, but to put in practice, to test if the learning, because one thing is learning intellectually, and the other thing is becoming part of who you are, right? So we all know that we shouldn't do to others what we don't want others to do unto us. This is imprinted in our brain. Now, are we like that already? Is it part of us, or we still have only the intellectual knowledge of this, but not it's still not second nature to us. It is not, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be here on this incarnation. So it's more or less is like that, right? So let's say, again, going back to someone that killed a lot of people. You go back to the spiritual world, you regret, you readjust with your victims, you promise to yourself and to others that you are not going to fall into the same mistake, but you cannot kill anyone in the spiritual world, right? You can only kill here in the physical world. So until you come here and you are really tested if that became a new version of you, meaning whatever happens to you, even the most challenging trials of your life, you are not going to go back to your old self and kill someone. You have to prove to yourself, most of all, that you are really a different person, that it really became second nature to you. Was it clear, Renato?
Yeah, because I was, thinking, the guy from the heaven and hell, that he pretty much evolved a lot on the spiritual realm. That his task on the next incarnation was kind of the burden was already a little less than it was, because he evolved in the spiritual realm. So there was no need for all those trials.
Yes.
That's why I asked the question.
And this is it's an important concept that is hard for us to understand in Spiritism. The law of action and reaction, throughout the centuries we thought about it in meaning, if I kill you, you have to kill me next life. And that's not how it works, right? Once you learn and you overcome your bad tendency, like Paul said, love covers a multitude of sins, right? What does it mean that? It means that once you learn to love, all your sins that derives from lack of love are going to be erased from you, because you became a loving person. And again, let's understand love here in the most ample sense, not in a particular sense, in the word that we really don't have in the dictionary, which is love as Jesus taught us, right? Love your neighbor like you love yourself. So what does it mean? It means that once something becomes a part of you, then it's you. You're never going to go back to it. The famous story of Mother Teresa, right? That for those that never went to the center, you may not have heard. For those that goes to the center, you heard 1,000 times. Then when that journalist was following her, and suddenly out of nowhere she leaves the house and goes start running through the streets of Calcutta, all in the middle of a pile of garbage. She grabs someone that is almost dying, and she puts him in her arms, and he dies there. And the journalist that was following her was, can you imagine in the middle of a lot of garbage, the smell and everything. And he told her, listen, I couldn't do that even for $1 million. And she answered, neither could I, only with love. So that's part of her. She never thought about any other thing. It's the natural impulse of someone that do it because it's who she is. Was know who she is because she's there in the spiritual world, right? So that's what we need to understand of the learning process. The learning process goes through 2 stages. First thing is for us to learn on the intelligent side, to learn and understand, because there is a lot of people that don't even think about not doing harm to others because they only think about themselves. We are already in a stage where we are thinking, we know that we shouldn't do to others what we don't want others to do to you. We know that, but we still cannot put in practice 100% of our time. We can put in practice sometimes, but not all the time. So still is a process of learning. Okay?
Yeah.
Follow up on that question as well. On the opposite way, on the flip side of the coin, since when we're in the spiritual realm, we are pretty much surrounded people of on level, let's put that way, most likely. So if we acquire some sort of, not saying virtual, but quality on the physical level, on the physical realm, let's put it better, would us be tested as well in the spirit when you get in the spirit, or it doesn't work that way?
No. The tests are here in the physical world. Once you acquire it, it belongs to you. So that's why the spirits always tells us that when Jesus told us before going to the altar, go and make peace with your enemy. because once you resolve the issues here in the physical world, you're not going to carry the consequences to the spiritual world. Only the unresolved issues that we have and the harm that we do to ourselves and we cannot erase from ourselves are the ones that we carry back to the spiritual world. And again, just a parenthesis on the spiritual world here. You said that we are surrounded by spirits at the same level as we are. Yes, but up to after a certain level of evolution, you surround yourself with spirits less evolved than you, so you can help and assist them, like André Luiz and the mentors are doing throughout the books. So it's just that you cannot access levels that are higher than your evolutionary level, but you can always go down to help and assist those in need below you, right?
Right. Thanks, John.
Thanks. Anyone else? Anything? Or should we continue?
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
actually have a comment or a question. Say one of the Kardec books says something like that a spiritist or a medium that does not follow the right path, they may fall into the hands of obsessors.
Yes.
Like what was mentioning here about the killing someone. So maybe they do know the already has knowledge about to do the right thing and then keep doing the wrong thing and ended up having an obsession that it may make them commit a crime. So I just remember that part of one of Kardec books. I can't remember which book it is,
But you know, is there? I'm not sure I understood. Was it a question there somewhere or no? I don't know, Ruth. I'm sorry.
No. It just came to me that it says that in one of Kardec books that if you don't follow the right path, you may fall into the hands of obsessors. So,
oh yeah, we are surrounded by spirits at all times, right? We have, that image of the angel on one side and the devil on the other side. It's in a sense, it's true in a sense of that we are surrounded by spirits, and our connection, we make our connection. So if we lower our vibrations by committing, making mistakes, knowing what we are doing, we are going to associate ourselves with the inferior spirits that surround us, and some of them, for personal reasons, wants us to prevent us from moving forward, either because they want some vengeance or because they don't want us to move forward because we were partners in crime and they don't want us to evolve if they are staying behind. So there are several reasons, but we are the ones that are going to associate ourselves with them according to our vibrational level. Okay.
Next, 862. There are individuals who never succeed and seem to be stalked by a bad spirit in all their endeavors. Is this not what we call fatalism? It is definitely fatalism, if you want to call it that, but it results from the type of life chosen by those individuals in the spirit state, because they wanted to exercise their patience and resignation through a life of disappointment. However, do not believe that destiny is absolute. It is often a consequence for individuals who choose the wrong path, one that does not correspond to their intelligence and abilities. If people try to cross a river without knowing how to swim, they stand a very good chance of drowning. And we can say the same about most events in your life. If people only attempted things that are in harmony with their abilities, they would usually succeed. The cause of their failure is their conceit and ambition, which veer them off their proper path and make them mistake a desire to satisfy passions for vocation. They fail by their own fault, but instead of blaming themselves, they prefer to blame their star. For example, an individual who could have been a good craftsperson and honorably earn a living in that capacity prefers to write bad poetry and ultimately dies of starvation. There would be a place for everyone if everyone assumed their proper place.
That's a very interesting question, an answer from the spirits, because that is something that every time we come to this question, it's always, we always reflect on people that, some people, we all know people that apparently tried hard but cannot go forward, cannot succeed in life, right? And this is the question: is it fatalism? And the spirits say, yes, it can definitely be fatalism if you want to call it, but it results from the life chosen by those individuals, either in the spirit state or because we make our choices here in the physical world. So the example of someone that trying to cross a river without knowing how to swim, or someone that could have been a good craftsperson and this prefers to write bad poetry. These are good examples. Sometimes we find people saying, "Oh, I worked so hard all my life in this area, but I could never advance. I don't know. This is destiny." And the answer is, it may be or maybe not. Why maybe? Because if we abuse our wealthy in a previous existence, if we had the opportunity of being wealthy and abused, of course we will have to come to a new incarnation without the ability to be wealthy again, or struggling to reach that, because that's the way we are going to learn resignation, that we're going to learn understanding and things like that. But if I decided early in my life that I wanted to be a piano player, and I would study very hard, I'll be still struggling nowadays because I don't have the ability, I don't have the talent. So it will be a waste of my time to try to be something that I clearly cannot. And individuals, many times they fail to understand this. They fail to accept that even, if I love music and I would love to be a music player, I have no abilities. So I have to choose a different path. We don't have only one ability. We have different abilities. So let's try to find something that we can have some sort of success or more chance of success than insist on something that we keep banging our heads into doors and windows and cannot move forward. It's hard. It's not something easy to accept and to understand. But that's what the spirits are trying to tell us. There is a proper place for everyone, if everyone assumes their proper place. But of course, if I can be a very good manager of a small store, but I would, instead of being happy with that, I want to be the owner of a chain of stores, and I don't have the ability to run a chain of stores, so I'm going to fail. Once I read something that I thought very interesting, that there is always a ceiling of where our abilities reach, and normally we go up to the ceiling, above that ceiling, and then we start failing on that level because we went above our capacity level. That's, it's hard to understand and hard to accept. but you know, we have to analyze that, if it's really destiny or fatalism or our misguided choices. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Oh boy. Oh, someone is calling someone.
Okay.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
on the first part of the answer, I was thinking here. You know, I remember Elmo explained this before, that not necessarily being rich or being poor, that rich is harder or poor easier, is, you know, is different, just different tasks. But I was thinking to myself, since we fail poorly when we have wealth and bring out the worst on us, you know, ego and all the stuff that comes along when we have money and power, and when we don't have that, we tend to bring, kind of bring the best, and being humble and patient and everything. So if a spirit wants me to fail, would that spirit try not to make me rich, instead of make me poor and not succeed?
There is a question, I think 865, that is going to answer that, which is, you know, why sometimes people get lucky and win the lottery or things like that. So I'll leave that for that answer, okay? And the spirits have an answer there, but you know, again, the spirits that surround you are going to try to give you ideas, and depending on what you listen to, you may follow one or other idea, and some of these can result in things that you can see as a success, and in reality are not really. They are just tests, and that you are very likely to fail, right? So we'll see that, but you know, Elmo always said that in the beginning, when he started learning about spiritism, he never wanted to win the lottery, right? Because he knew he was going to get lost in it. But nowadays he made peace with it, because he knows that if he wins, he's going to use it wisely. And again, you know, as I think we all think the same, right?
Yeah.
We would know what to do with it, and I think the majority of us wouldn't, but
We would
anyway,
not.
some of us would.
No, we won't.
And I know Elmo is listening, and I know he would, but you know, these are all tests and trials. You see that what they say, 1 in 10 people that win the lottery actually is able to preserve their money. All the other 9 end up losing everything, right?
Forget it.
Because they're not prepared. 1 in 10 of the lepers that Jesus cured came back and thanked him, right? The other 9 didn't learn from the lesson, and they're going to go back to have the same disease.
May I add something, João?
Yes.
Okay, if my voice is not understandable because of the internet, just move your hand or something.
Okay.
When I read this particular question, I think the central point of it, my personal opinion, is that the fatality is not absolute. I think we have always to remember, that's my opinion, I'd like to listen to your opinion, João, is that at every corner, at every intersection, we always have the option to go right or left. We always have the option to step into the abyss or not. Independently of what obsessing spirits are talking to our ear, in spite of the plans that were made to this incarnation, at every instance, we have the chance to go right or left. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%.
Mm.
The spirits cannot force us to do anything. It's our own free will, right? We are the ones that choose to listen to them and choose to go right and wrong according to our free will combined with what the spirits are telling us. So yes, and actually when we I don't think we'll get there today, but next week when we talk about foreknowledge of the future, that's one of the things that we're going to discuss, right? How does these predictions or premonitions work in people that have these abilities? How does it exactly work? Because if there is something that is going to happen in the future, then where does our free will stays, right? We have our free will, so the future cannot be written in stone, because like you said, and I agree 100%, at all times we have choices. We can take right or wrong, left or right, up or down. So it depends always on us, right? Now, the thing is not the actions that we take, but how do we analyze the consequence of our actions? What we learn from there, right? That's what really matters, because we evolve making mistakes and learning from our mistakes. We create karmas for ourselves when we do not learn from our mistakes and we repeat them, and we insist on them. And that's why we're still here and not in the company of the more evolved spirits, right?
Yeah. It's like you said, John, fatalism. You know, I'm glad you explained this, because I've always had a hard time understanding it. But fatalism, with what we, how could I put it? When we do the right thing, and we understand what's wrong and right, and we bump our heads to the wall and do it anyway, that's fatalism, is it not?
No.
No, that's not fatalism.
No. It's our own choices, right?
Right.
Our free will.
We know what. Let's say, okay, the example of somebody who's going to rob a bank. You go rob a bank, and you know that if you do rob a bank, the consequences are going to come. You either go to jail or you get fatally killed or whatever. That's fatalism, isn't it not?
That's the law of cause and consequence, action and reaction, right? You act, okay. You make a choice, there will be a consequence on your choice, right?
Right.
You may call it fatalism, but I think fatalism is a bit different, right? I think it's more action and reaction, right? If you rob a bank, there will be consequence for your action.
Right.
You may not even have consequences on this life, physical life, but there will be consequences, because you are deviating from the natural law, God's law. So if every time we deviate from the natural law, we create a consequence. We create what the Eastern religions call karma, right, for ourselves.
Right.
Consequence. That we'll have to face the consequence of our actions, and that's where I try to make a difference here. When you rob a bank, fully aware that what you are making, it's not right, it's a more serious consequence when you are very, you are still in a very early stages of your evolution, and you don't even know that stealing is wrong, because it's something that you haven't still learned that path. So there is consequence, but a less serious consequence.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But robbing a bank is something that everyone in their right mind knows that is wrong, right? People may not care and may choose to do it because they don't care of the consequences, but that they know it's wrong, and it will create a consequence. Yes, Julio, please go ahead.
Okay.
No, it's just to address what Sarada was asking right now and what Renato asked before. there are two things that are a little confused here, and it's confused in the original text. There is determinism and there is fatalism. Determinism and fatalism are both conditions that are imposed upon us. This imposition does not mean that it's being done by someone. It can be by a set of circumstances. The difference between determinism and fatalism is that fatalism is a set of impositions or one imposition, and you cannot change. So for instance, our physical bodies will perish. We will run out of vital fluid and we'll go back to the spiritual realm. That's fatalism. It is in our constitution. It's in the engineering of the physical body that it should have an end. Determinism is basically what João was explaining as cause and consequence. Whatever I do in this reincarnation process or in the spiritual realm determines my future. It's the consequences of my actions, of my speech, and of my thoughts. But then when I come back, or even if I go back to the spiritual realm, because it's determinism, I can still change myself, realize those consequences, and either ameliorate or eliminate them altogether. So determinism, we can still change things. In fatalism, we cannot. So fatalism is determinism to the maximum, basically.
Okay.
So, may I
Yes.
ask something?
Yes.
For instance, what would be, in what category Thomas Edison would fit? Because he, as a main of example, because we are talking about abilities, attempts to do something that you might be perceived as unskilled or unqualified or intellectually not able. He was deemed as stupid by most of his teachers. He was fired from his first jobs, and he made, apparently what is documented, that he has made more than 1,000 unsuccessful attempts at inventing the light bulb. However, he succeeded. So how would you categorize this specific situation, which is the situation of many people who created things that have really changed humanity?
Yeah, all people that make humanity goes forward are generally not recognized at their time. I don't know if it was Thomas Edison that said that he didn't failed 1,000 times. He learned 1,000 ways of how not to do it. So these cases are the exception, because these are spirits that come with the knowledge and the ability to help humankind move forward. Which does not guarantee that they will do it, because again, free will always plays. But the example of Thomas Edison is someone with a higher intellectual ability than all of his peers. So he has the ability to withstand the critics and to insist in his pursuit, because he knows intimately that he's on the right path. That's different from me trying to thinking that I'm going to become a Mozart and trying to play piano and learn piano because I'm sure I'm going to become a Mozart. I don't have the abilities. And if I look at myself and study myself, know thyself, like we learn very shortly, I think question 919, if we know yourself, you know what abilities you have and what abilities you don't have. And you are not going to insist on doing something that is destined to fail. Someone like Thomas Edison, someone like Albert Einstein, even through all their failures that they had to go through in order to succeed, they always knew themselves that they were on the right path and they were onto something bigger even than themselves.
Yeah.
Something to add there, Julio? I know that's a topic that you like.
Yeah.
No, I think it's I mean, in the case of Thomas Edison or anyone, it's neither. It's neither determinism nor fatalism.
Right.
These are individuals who have achieved a certain knowledge because of their previous work, because of the merit of their actions, and they come with a confidence, and they apply that confidence in a field that they truly dominate, and this is why they are successful. Whereas someone, as Ron was saying, may try to apply their confidence in an area they know nothing about. So it doesn't matter. In that case, the confidence becomes arrogance, degrades into arrogance, and the person only suffers because the person doesn't have the ability to match up the confidence, which is what we call arrogance, even if the arrogance is not malicious. So all these great geniuses, all these individuals that have contributed tremendously to humankind came because they came with this confidence because they had already grown in that area, in that field, in that expertise. And they simply applied it while they were here. But they have the merit. It's not determined for them, and it's not a fatalism either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing, just as a joke, in principle, one could say it's determinism. It's the consequences of all the progress that they made in the previous life or previous lives. You can think of it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. In a sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right.
Okay.
Next
Okay.
one.
Okay. 863. Do social customs often force people to follow one road rather than another? And is their choice of occupation often controlled by the opinion of those around them? Is the feeling that leads us to attach a certain amount of importance to the opinions of others an obstacle to exercising our free will? Social traditions and customs are established by human beings, not by God. If people submit to them, it is because they want to, and their submission is an act of their free will. If they wanted to free themselves from those customs, they can do so. Then why do they complain? They should blame their pride rather than social customs, because pride makes them prefer to starve rather than stray from what they consider to be their dignity. Nobody thanks them for this sacrifice, though God would take note of the sacrifice of their vanity. We are not saying that you should resist public opinion or customs, as in case of some people who are more eccentric than philosophical. It is just absurd to allow others to point or stare at you like a curious animal, as there is wisdom in voluntarily descending when you are unable to stay at the top of the ladder.
Yes. So, like Paco would say in English, please, right? So let's try to understand what the spirits are trying to say here. And actually, something that we see all around, and actually, I think humanity is evolving in a sense, because at the time of Kardec, this was pretty much written in stone. If you were born a noble, you could not work. If you were born poor, you can never become a noble. And nowadays it's much more fluid in most parts of the world. But the idea here is we live in society. So society forces us, if I'm born in a rich family, I cannot become a street cleaner, let's say. But if I'm even if I'm born in a rich family, if I'm the best street cleaner that ever was, what prevents me from being a street cleaner? Again, we're exaggerating here just for us to understand the concept. Society prevents, and I prevent myself because I feel embarrassed what others are going to say about me, how society is going to judge me, and what are the consequences in terms of my social life of the choices I make. So I end up being unhappy because I didn't choose to follow the path that I wanted for myself, because my parents wouldn't allow me, because society would not allow me. So these spirits are very clear in the beginning. Social traditions and customs are established by human beings and not by God. So these are our choices. We as a society decide that someone that is born in a rich family cannot clean the streets. We are the ones that decided that someone who is who is born in the slums cannot go to college. And we are seeing the exceptions more and more, right? The fluidity of society nowadays is much bigger than it was 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. When I was growing up, normally, if you were born in a family of a certain social status, you either had to be a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor, right? No other professions would be good enough for someone that was born in a good family, as they used to say, right? And less this is relevant. But we still see a lot of people that end up choosing their careers because their parents impose, because they don't have the courage to confront society. And we even see that again in small religious sects, that people cannot get out of the society, cannot get free out of their sects, because they are going to be discriminated in their own societies. I watched a very good movie on Netflix the other day, now that we have a lot of time to watch Netflix. If you want to watch, it's called Unorthodox. It's someone that...
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yes, from a Jewish traditional sect here in Williamsburg that tries to break away from her family. It's very interesting. Really, and it shows exactly that, right? Someone that wants to play music and cannot be, it's not allowed to play music because social customs would not allow her. And this is someone, it's based on a true story and something that happened 5 years ago or 4 years ago. So we still have a lot of this, but we don't have it like we used to have at the time of Kardec. That if you were, it was almost impossible to move from one level of society to another.
Okay. May I just mention something that I observed the other day? The son of Bruce Springsteen was sworn in as a firefighter. Then one of the reporters that was present asked him a question in a way which seemed that he was, why you were pursuing this profession when you are the son of a famous musician? the question was not posed exactly, you know, the way I'm saying, but that was the nuance of the question. Why have you chosen this profession? The reporter asked him, as it was understood that the reporter was perceiving a firefighter profession as, you know, below or beneath of a famous musician like his father.
And what was his, did you hear his answer? No.
I remember that Bruce Springsteen, he seemed extremely happy, and he expressed that he and his wife, they were supporting him in any, you know, choice. They were very happy. They seemed very happy, the parents there.
Yeah.
But I found an insult the way the reporter asked that question. I found this horrible. I said, this is so terrible.
Yeah, because that's how we still, most of us still think, right? That you are not supposed to follow a profession that is beneath your social class. And but I think we are evolving. Anyway, we went over a little bit, 7:31, so we have to stop here. Just a reminder, before we do our final prayer, we have the second part with the study of the book Heaven and Hell that will be conducted by Julio today. That will start 5 minutes after we finish this part, so we will have time to grab a coffee or do something that you need to do in your homes. This Sunday, 11 a.m., we are going to study the book In the Greater World, and the chapter is chapter 11, Sex. It's a very interesting study. And the following Sunday, Sunday the 12th, we are going to have a special lecture by someone in Brazil. Actually, his name is Álvaro Mordecai. He used to be a traditional Jewish, you know, living in Israel. He was Brazilian, born Brazilian, but he, a Jewish family, but he became an Orthodox Jew and then came to Spiritism some 3-4 years ago. And so I'm sure it's going to be very interesting to hear from him. And he always brings the Jewish knowledge applied to the gospel according to Spiritism, which is very interesting. He hasn't told us yet what's going to be the subject of his lecture, but I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. So mark your calendars, Sunday the 12th at 11 a.m. And it's going to be through YouTube. Yeah, it's not going to be through Zoom. It's going to be to YouTube. We will send the information, but you know, you can go to YouTube, look for Spiritist Group of New York, and follow us there on YouTube. That you will be able to join and watch the lecture. And while you are there, there is a lot of lectures that we posted there from Julio, from Jussara, from myself, from Elmo, that you know, if you want to watch some old lectures, that they are already in our page, including yes, in English, Anna. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. So no, we want to have people giving lectures in English, right? And it doesn't make sense to bring someone speaking Portuguese. All the other groups are doing that. So we are, and the United States Spiritist Federation is going to start a weekly lecture in English every Saturday starting on the 11th. And we'll send more information also. That's going to be also through YouTube. So it's we have a lot of this. And yes, Fabio, we are already actively discussing the possibility of continue to having online meetings after we finish the confinement and we go back to the center. We'll still have our online meetings one way or another. We haven't discussed yet, but yes, because I think that's an opportunity for a lot of people that are not able to come to our center to at least have meet once a week and study Spiritism. So yes, we will have that.
That's nice. Wonderful.
So thank you all for coming. I hope you stay for the second part.
Yes.
It's very interesting. It's always complementary to to what we studied in the first part, and I'm going to ask Carol to do our final prayer.
Thank you. Infinite Creator, Supreme Intelligence, all goodness and grace, we are grateful for the opportunity to be together this evening through telecommunication and video. We are grateful to our spiritual benefactors, the mentors, the healers, those who are showing us the way. Guidance is at our side all the way. We are truly grateful for what we have received and all the blessings that will continue to flow in our midst. We know that the times are challenging, but we know that we have the tools, we have the blessings, and we have the grace which we are receiving right now to go forth, bringing forth a higher vibration, keeping ourselves centered and keeping our mind at peace. We have this to give to others, but we certainly can do this for ourselves as well. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness, and with the ability to share what we can with whomever we are able to do this with. As we close this portion of the meeting this evening, may we be safe, protected, guided, and comforted in these times. Go forth now in peace. Go forth now as beacons of light. So be it.